allergic to soy and you want a tofu that you can actually eat, or maybe you just want more of a variety in the tofus that you're eating and you live in a place where they don't have those varieties. Well, stick around because we might just blow your mind with all the options that are available and how easy they are to make.
Damn French. Woo-wee. Ha
Let's make some tofu! Greetings everyone and welcome back to PB with Jay. Here on the channel, we focus on all things plant-based goodness, but today we're doing something a little different and we're diving into the wonderful world of non-soy tofu and how you can make it from a variety of ingredients that you probably already got in your kitchen. And for those that aren't allergic to soy, just think of this as having more variety. So if you want to have tofu dishes multiple times a week, you can have them from a different source. We talk a lot about balance on this channel, and this is a prime example of how to get that. Today, I'm going to show you how to make 4 different kinds of tofu using 4 completely different sources: a grain, a seed, a nut, and a legume. Each of these recipes is very similar, but what's interesting is they all make a different kind of tofu that is probably best used in different kind of uses. Didn't have a better way of phrasing that, sorry. Stick around because I'm going to tell you which of these are totally worth your time and which one might not be. And I'm going to break down how much you save by making these on your own. If you find this video useful, hit the like button so YouTube will share this with others, and let us know in the comments down below what you've made tofu using. And if you want a part 2 to this video, let us know because we got some ideas using other ingredients. So the 4 ingredients we are using today are red lentils, pumpkin seeds, cashews, and rolled oats. That's right, we're gonna make an oatmeal tofu. And I might even show you how I try to use it in a recipe. That may or may not fail. But before we get into all of that goodness, I'd like to say hello to some of you who said hello to us in the comments down below. Sabrina from Philadelphia, Maggie from Manitoba, Ellen from Tucson, Kelly from Athens, Georgia, Helene from Norway, Elise from Queens, New York, 75-year-old Sue from Illinois, Jill from the Balearic Islands of Spain, Judy from Coconut Creek, Florida, Zoe from Greece, Isabel from Ottawa, Sarah from Calhoun, Georgia, and Trina in Oregon. If you'd like a shout out here on the channel, all you have to do is say hello to us in the comments down below. Let us know who you are, where you're watching from, and what's your favorite tofu dish. And as always, if you want to bump up on that shout out list, consider joining us over in the Mighty Network for that perk, along with many, many others. And if you want to further support yourself and us on this channel, consider getting some of our shirts over in the merch store. Some of these are going to be disappearing soon because we're going to do another t-shirt contest, so don't sleep on it. All right, let's make some tofu. So the first tofu we're going to make today is a pumpkin seed tofu. We soaked a cup of pumpkin seeds overnight, and then in the morning I rinsed them out with some fresh water, and I blended them with 3 cups of fresh water, just a little bit of salt. And then once it was all nice and blended, basically I let it go for like a minute in the Vitamix. And then I added in a teaspoon of agar powder. Make sure you get powder, not flakes, because I think if you're using flakes, it's 1 tablespoon to 1 teaspoon of powder, although you might want to look that up. I'll post it right here. Put that onto the stove and let it come to a boil, and then just constantly stirred it while it started to coagulate. It didn't coagulate the way I've seen in other videos like Mary's Test Kitchen, where it acts more like a tofu would. It became more like a, I don't know, like a thick sauce. So I ran that through our strainer and quite a bit of liquid came out, and then it turned into like a pulp, kind of like a Play-Doh. So I pressed that into our tofu mold and put the lid on top and let it come to room temperature, and then I put it in the fridge. And as you can see here, it turned into a pretty good tofu. It doesn't make much, is the one thing I will say about this. So for 1 cup, you're getting like a pretty small batch of this. So depending how expensive pumpkin seeds are where you are, this might not be your best choice. Although I know we've made this in the past and it's got a really, really good flavor. But you might want to make a double batch when you make it because it doesn't make much. Next up in our adventures in tofu is I made a red lentil tofu. Same thing, I soaked 1 cup of red lentils overnight, And in the morning, I rinsed them out and added 3 cups of water, blended them up. The beauty of this one is you don't need to add anything else. You don't need a coagulant, you don't need to add agar. And you will notice when you cook this on the stove that it starts to come together really, really quick. And unlike the pumpkin seed or a soy tofu, there's not really anything to drain out. Like, you just put this straight in to a glass container, let it come to room temperature, and then put it in the fridge. And as you can see, it makes a huge amount. Like, this is probably, I don't know, at least 2 blocks of tofu. So you get a big bang for your buck out of the red lentils. So this next one was a bit of an experiment for me. I've never made it before, but I wanted to try doing something with cashews. Just like all the others, I soaked a cup of cashews overnight, and in the morning I discarded that liquid and rinsed it with fresh water. Put it into the blender with a little bit of salt and a teaspoon of agar. Blended that for a minute and then poured it in, and it reminded me more of the pumpkin seed, where it just started to get thicker and thicker. And when I eventually put it into the little milk bag, nothing really came out. It was really didn't have a lot of liquid. And so that's great too. I thought maybe you'd have some like cashew milk left over. And when I put it in, I thought it was really still more like a pudding, and I thought that would be a problem. But as you can see, it set really, really well. This is probably more like, I don't know, like a medium tofu. I have an idea with what I'm gonna do with this. Breakfast recipe I wanted to play with, so I might do that with this one and see how I like it. It definitely got a lot more salt than I thought it would. So at this point now, I've made a tofu with the seed, a tofu with a legume, and a tofu with a nut. So stick around, because in a second, I'm gonna show you how I do an attempt for making a tofu using a grain. So I ground up 1 cup of oat flour. I mixed that with 3 cups of water. I didn't put salt in this time. And then I didn't put the agar in here. I put the agar in after I put it on the stove and it started to boil. Then I whisked the agar in. And then let it keep on going until it felt really, really thick. This is about the consistency that the cashew was, and I didn't think it was gonna set. So I feel good about this one.
Hi.
Want some oatmeal tofu?
Not really.
I think it's gonna be good. I was thinking about this as I was making it, right? If you were to make this and while you were stirring it, you poured in a little bit of maple syrup and some cinnamon, so you flavor it, and then you could do something with that, maybe.
Can I try it?
Just oat
Okay.
paste.
Tastes like oatmeal. I like that.
I'm gonna let it cool now.
Just got new nails. Damn French. Woo-wee. Ha.
So they melted a little bit. That's good to know with this tofu, that when you add heat, it melts a bit. Which one's this? Is this the cashew? Ooh, yeah. I mean, we got the oatmeal. I might try flipping these, put them on for a few more minutes, just cooking the other side. We're making stuff up. I'm very curious. I'm gonna try this just on its own. It's really good. That's the oatmeal. Why do I have 2 forks? I think I would just flavor the oatmeal more when I'm making it, like the oatmeal tofu. I put some cinnamon in it. But that's good. It's got like an eggy texture to it. I can play with the flavors a little bit more. I think I would just maybe put some parchment under it so it doesn't get as messy in the air fryer. I'm gonna keep playing with this. Let me know below if you think this is something we should try to put in our cookbook that we're working on, because this is a pretty unique recipe. So how did these tofus turn out ultimately? So as you can see from, oh God, I'm gonna get the left to right wrong because we're facing each other. Let's start over here. So this is the pumpkin tofu, or as some people would call pumfu. This air fries beautifully, and because it's got kind of a higher fat count than typical tofus, I find it gets really, really crispy, even without any additional oil or anything like that. That kind of thing is exactly what I would want to use in a stir fry or anything where I want a nice crispy tofu. The lentil one works equally as well. Both of these, I would say, work very similar to how regular tofu would work in a dish. It's perfect for stir fries or anything else you would typically use tofu for, just in terms of actual use. In terms of these two, the cashew and the oatmeal, the oatmeal one's fascinating. It's pretty goopy and sticky. And as you can see from that recipe I took a shot at, they both do not stand up well to heat. They would react closer to what I would say like a silken or a soft tofu would work. So they'd be really, really good for recipes or anything that you're using a soft or a silken tofu for, like a sauce or a cream, things like that. The one thing I would do if I would make the oatmeal tofu again is I think what I would just do is I would treat it like a dessert on its own, kind of like a panna cotta, and I would flavor it more. I'd put some cinnamon inside of it, maybe a little bit of maple syrup to make it like a dessert. Maybe even in the last stages of it, stir in some raisins or something, and then just put that into a ramekin or a mold, and then serve it with some fruit or something. If that sounds interesting to you, let me know, and maybe I will add that to one of the videos where we're just making things up on the fly. I would say none of these were particularly hard to make. They were all basically the same method. And as you saw, all you really need to do is get some agar powder. If you're thinking that agar flakes are the same thing, they are not. You can easily get these kind of things on Amazon, pretty much anywhere in the world. That's where we got ours. Now let's talk about cost. All of these use the same ratio, which was 1 cup of the dry ingredient to 3 cups of water. So for the rolled oats, it's roughly 30 to 50 cents per batch of tofu, which, I mean, it's pretty dirt cheap. That said, you probably get the least amount of uses out of that, depending on how you're gonna use it. Pumpkin seeds, depending on where you get those, are gonna range between $3.50 to $5 a cup. And honestly, it made the smallest amount. I'd say it's typical, if not smaller than the average block of tofu you would buy in the store. We get our pumpkin seeds from Costco, so we get a bit of a deal on them. But if they're expensive where you are, you might wanna consider that more of a treat. But it does make a really delicious tofu. We've had it a lot in the past. Cashews are on the higher end as well. A cup of cashews can go anywhere from like $3.50 to $6, depending on where you're buying it. If you can get it in a bulk store, you're probably getting a decent deal. That made what I would say is like probably bigger than a typical size of tofu. So you're getting probably 1.5 to 2 blocks out of that. And similar to the oatmeal, I didn't really mention it, but it's probably the same as like 2 blocks. So the cashews aren't a terrible price. It's probably a little bit cheaper than buying silken or soft tofu of the same amount in the grocery store. Now, the one that is the best bang for your buck are these lentils. A cup of red lentils is like $1.50 in the store. And if you're buying them in bulk, you're probably getting them even cheaper. This made easily what I would consider being like 2 blocks of tofu. This is it right here. It's huge. It makes a lot. So this is easily the best bang for your buck. So if you consider cutting this in 2, then you're getting a block of tofu from like 50 cents to $1 maybe $1.50 for each one. And this was the easiest one to make for sure. Now, all you have to do really in advance is just soak your lentils or your beans or whatever it is you're making. You just have to think about it the night before. It just saves you some time and makes everything kind of go a little smoother when you're making it. So that's that. Let me know in the comments down below if there are any ingredients you'd like to see me make a tofu with. Let me know which of these is the most exciting that you might want to try yourself. Thanks again for joining us on this tofu journey. Hit that like button to let YouTube know to share it with other people. Check out our merch store while these shirts still stick around, and many others that are in the t-shirt winner variety contest. And, while you're perusing the website, maybe in the background you're watching another video, maybe this one, because it's right here. And it's just easy. Just stay there. Stay where you are. A little bit longer. And watch this. YouTube picked it just for you.